Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We shall now look at AI in operations and, in particular, how AI can help in building an AI powered bank. And to give you more details, please welcome on screen. Let's have some applause. Yeah, that's right. Mr. Charles Sutton from Nvidia. Over to you, Charles.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for the opportunity to present to you today. So I'm Charles Sutton. I lead Nvidia's financial services practice in EMEA. I joined Nvidia around 5 months ago, but I worked as a partner to Nvidia at two startups which I ran in Europe, one being a company called H2O.ai and another one being Kinetica. And over those 5 years, as when I was a partner to Nvidia, I really saw how Nvidia is transforming the financial services industry, and how a lot of banks are doubling down on Nvidia's GPU platform. Today, I'll give you a quick 30 minutes or 20 minutes overview on how Nvidia is supporting a lot of the retail and investment banks across the globe. But before I do that, I just wanted to kind of set the scene on where is the FSI industry heading and going, and why are customers partnering with Nvidia to build their next generation banking platform. So first of all, where is the traditional bank or the industry heading? So the traditional banks with their legacy customer base are first of all being hugely disrupted by the fintech organizations. The fintechs are focused on customer experience and reducing friction. So they allow customers to transact basically through any device of choice. They fundamentally make it easier to reach out to customers, and they just do stuff better, partly because they don't have the legacy estate that more traditional banks have. So if you take, for example, Adyen in Holland, they are disrupting the payment space, and they actually have a bigger market cap in the region than ING does. And similarly, Square in the US is another prime example of this, a great Nvidia customer. But more concerning to big tech or to the traditional financial services industry, I would say, is the big tech organizations or the big retail organization who are also massively encroaching on the FSI space. Again, their business model is not focused on making money like traditional banks, but they're more interested in your data, particularly your spending data. These guys have deep pockets and are looking to really make recommendations via running extensive AI algorithms to drive consumer spending habits. They just want to know everything about you. And they also, by the way, whether it's Square, Walmart, Microsoft, they are running their platforms on top of Nvidia GPUs. If we take the investment side of banking as well, on the trading space, over the last 20 years, the investment banks and the hedge funds have increasingly moved from human to algorithmic or systematic trading. And this has transformed most large financial institutions, particularly in London and New York, where traders, whether human or algorithmic, they are now going through another massive change, but in a far shorter time period. And they need to adopt to this changing data science landscape. So the growing capabilities of AI, coupled with the increased amount of data, means firms without an AI strategy will soon be left behind. Discretionary traders who don't augment their human traders with teams of AI support or assistance will find themselves trading their performance savvy data peers. And systematic traders as well will be faced with a dual challenge, which is obviously this huge amount of data, but also they need to develop these AI algorithms. And they have a far smaller trading windows to do this in. So traditionally, everything around trading was around doing everything faster. Now it's about doing everything better and augmenting trading with more data and running trading algorithms to just fundamentally do stuff data. As I put it, in London at the moment anyway, but it's the same, I think, in every financial city, and we're finding the same in whether it's in Asia, whether it's in London. It's actually arms race at the moment between these trading organizations to be able to augment their trading algorithms and to actually run and find alpha quicker. So if I give you just a bit of background on Nvidia, Nvidia has been playing in the financial services space for over 10 years, whether it was some of our early adopter customers like the largest banks in the world, such as JP Morgan or Bank of America, using us for HPC workloads, particularly around their Monte Carlo simulations for counterparty risk or XVA. But really around 2015, with the release of TensorFlow, was where we perceived to be the inflection point where many more banks and financial services or institutions started to see really taking advantage of GPUs for many machine learning and deep learning workloads. The first to adopt this were some of the payment companies, and the big payment platforms such as PayPal or American Express. But many banks really did double down on using GPUs to manage their fraud workloads as such. And generally, since that time, a lot of organizations have looked to Nvidia to help them build their data science platforms to run on top of GPUs to fundamentally power their AI strategy. So if we look at now the AI-powered bank, Nvidia's value proposition in financial services is very broad. And I want to highlight that financial services organizations are looking, we see, for a partner and a platform, and why we perceive Nvidia with its extensive ecosystem can be that platform. So the AI platform for building the modern bank starts really with the key business drivers. Banks, for instance, are focused on improving fraud detection, enabling virtual assistants, creating recommendations to products' next best actions. Insurance houses of the banks are looking to automate claims process, identify fraudulent claims. And again, obviously, you guys have been doing this for many years, but regardless of where you are on your enterprise AI journey, the need in terms of AI infrastructure is the same. It has to be scalable. It has to enable greater productivity, and it has to give you this platform at a suitable cost of ownership. You're not going to break the bank, as I should say, to be able to pay for this platform. So in partnership with our leading hardware and software partners, Nvidia is enabling banks to invest in a platform that meets today's requirements, whilst delivering a future-proof platform as such. Trying to stitch this all together is a challenge, and essentially we are giving you as close as possible a platform which I perceive to be the AI easy button as such. So this is kind of a very high level view of the comprehensive platform or stack that Nvidia have built. So we've invested billions and hundreds of man years building this certified stack. And as one executive mentioned recently, one of my customers, JPMC, who I met for lunch, I should say, one of the first lunches I've been able to have since COVID started. He said the race has already been run and it would be very difficult or challenging for anyone to catch up, because we've built this platform and we work very closely with these organizations to fit into their ecosystem. So the way I see it is the cloud vendors, who I perceive to be obviously also the other major players in this space, have built some great tools, but it's not close, I would say, to the Nvidia stack. They talk a great story with solutions like Anthos or Outpost, and they talk a great story about their multi-cloud strategy and hybrid plays. But fundamentally, these cloud vendors are taking advantage of GPUs under the bonnet and are taking advantage of a lot of the Nvidia stack when proposing to you. We will support customers on premise or on the cloud via every OEM, but also we work very closely with these cloud vendors as well as such. So here is a kind of an overview of the Nvidia offering. And the stack really starts with our CUDA development platform. And this is, again, been developed for over 15 years now. And this is optimized for all types of GPUs. And on top of CUDA, we have our deep learning SDKs, and this gives developers access to libraries or data centers tools needed to seamlessly deploy deep learning networks. And that, by the way, cannot be underestimated. Deployment is one of the hardest challenges of any AI workload within a bank. And then we work closely with the data science community to take advantage of the latest developments in deep learning. So this includes some of the leading frameworks such as TensorFlow, PyTorch, MXNet. And even we work very closely with Ubuntu, as the previous presenter presented as well. And then finally, we take advantage of the data scientists community's tools of choice as such. We work very closely with a lot of these open source platforms at the moment. So data scientists and business units across banking or capital markets or insurance, they leverage the platform to deliver solutions based on a variety of applications, including recommendation systems, image and video recognition, speech, NLP. But this is a full stack platform, and many of the clients I work with have tens to hundreds of potential user cases they are looking to run on our stack today. And many do. We have some very large banks who have over 2,000 user cases now in their pipeline to run on top of the Nvidia stack as such. So finally, on this slide, I'm going to summarize a few of the user cases in financial services. So we are seeing interest from lenders across lines of business who are working with machine learning or deep learning to more accurately predict default. A great example of this is Scotia Bank, who in Canada are building an AI-powered bank. They are using XGBoost and Nvidia's Rapids platform to predict which customers are increased risk of default, so they can work closely with these customers to overcome the challenges brought around by financial distress. But we are also working in fraud, and fraud takes many forms, whether it's transactional, identity fraud, application fraud. American Express are using us for deep learning methods such as GANs to more accurately identify fraud. And again, fraud is, I would say, one of the standard user cases used across the FSI industry, taking advantage of GPUs. Another area of increased investment in financial services companies is virtualization. Virtual desktop infrastructure enables increased productivity from working from home, and that is critical in today's environment. And I can't comment on Oman, but in Europe we are seeing banks like Barclays, Deutsche Bank, UBS, Schroders, all really building out their virtualization platforms on top of GPUs. And actually, financial services is the biggest market for Nvidia's virtualization platform. Another component in today is digital payments, shown down here. And this is focused, again, we mentioned on fraud detection, but also is orientated around AI as a core component of the payments technology stack. I mentioned Square earlier. Square, they have built their conversational AI engines, Square Assist, on top of Nvidia's GPUs. And I think it helps with over 75% of their customer interactions are automated through Square Assist. And as recommendation systems are really powering the internet, this is true for Amazon, but it's also true for consumer finance companies, including banks and credit cards and such. And again, these recommendation systems are fundamentally built on top of Nvidia's GPU platform. And speaking of customer service, there is significant investment from financial services in deep learning techniques such as conversational AI to drive better outcomes from call centers and chatbots throughout all the customer support channels. Lastly, as I mentioned previously, given the volatility of the market, traders are absolutely using AI to enhance their trading algorithms and capitalize on the new market norm. I've scratched the surface of some of the user cases we're seeing in financial services. I do have some of these user cases shown here as well. So if I start with JPMC, for instance, again, JPMC have doubled down on Nvidia's stack for, I'd say they've been a customer for over 12 years now. And just one of their core user cases, which has kept them ahead of their peers in the marketplace, is around all their high performance computing workloads. They built a very big grid on top of GPUs. They estimate it's 40 times faster on top of GPUs, but at 20% of the cost associated with running on any other platform. CapitalOne, again, is doubling down on Nvidia's rapid accelerated data science platform. They believe it's increased their training time by about 100x, but also reduced cost by taking advantage of GPUs by around 98%. And fundamentally as well, the data science community absolutely wants to use GPUs as well. RBC, one of the largest, if not the largest bank in Canada, have built an AI-powered platform in the cloud, taking advantage of Nvidia's DGX platform. They use OpenShift to orchestrate containers. Again, all these customers are very referenceable. I'm very happy to speak to other customers as well. I mentioned American Express before. They're using GANs. I do have a slide here actually, which kind of traditionally fraud detection and the traditional model using tools like SAS were very much classic machine learning techniques and rules engine. Kind of what I was trying to show on this slide is banks trying to use us to identify false positives or reduce the overall effects of false positives, which is hugely costly for banks, are typically now taking advantage of deep learning techniques, which fundamentally run better on Nvidia's GPU platform. And this graph shows it effectively, showing the advantage of using deep learning over traditional machine learning techniques. I'm conscious that I'm going over the same thing a few times. So BNY Mellon, Bank of New York use us again for fraud, as do PayPal, as do Visa, as do most of the payment organ platforms out there are taking advantage of GPUs for fraud. Scotiabank, I mentioned earlier, again, they are trying to identify customers at risk, and they built very extensive models to do that and use the full stack platform offered by Nvidia. Just a few other examples which are not Anglo-Saxon or English based as such. So NLP is a user case we are seeing a huge amount of demand for at the moment, and a Turkish bank is very much built their customer service or platform on top of Nvidia GPUs. In their local language, they call it Maxi, part of Isbank, are very much taking advantage of GPUs to build out their NLP workload to offer assistance to their customers. And if we look more extensively in the market, in the insurance space, Ping An, who I'd probably say is the largest, or we believe is the largest insurance house, or at least property insurance house in the world. I think they have over 150 million customers. They state they process around 31,000 claims per day, and they can automate over 98% of them with AI, paying out in less than a day. Ping An is a huge customer of Nvidia in China, and very much have many user cases. Again, they built their bank, or they're building out their insurance house on top of Nvidia's full stack platform. And just another local bank in Europe, BNP Paribas, again, probably the largest retail bank in Europe now, uses again mainly for document processing, automating a lot of their document processing. And finally, one of my favorite customers, Square. Square are again, they're perceived to be a fintech organization, but I think at my last check, and I haven't done this for a few months, so please excuse me, I think they're worth 110 billion market cap. So I'm not sure if you could still call them a fintech organization, but again, they are a modern organization who have really chosen to build out their platform or build out their infrastructure on top of GPUs. And they use Nvidia's GPU platform extensively to run NLP models such as BERT. And they stated that over 75% of their interactions now they can automate with their customers, which obviously is a huge cost saving for them. The final customer I'll mention as well is one of the customers we're most proud of, is Spur Bank in Russia. They use Nvidia's DGX platform. So what I mentioned earlier is we can work with any cloud platform. We also work with any OEM to offer GPUs, so that whether that's HP, Dell, Lenovo, Cisco. But we also have our own workstation or platform, which we call DGX as well. And they have built a supercomputing DGX superpod, taking advantage of Nvidia. I think the last count, it was the 35th largest computer in the world, powering the bank. And these guys really have many, many workloads. They are probably the most AI-driven bank we have seen. I think they said in their last quote that 40% of their profits are driven through AI. And they're using us across many workloads, across banking, e-commerce, retail, leisure. To be honest with you, Spur are much bigger than just being a bank. They are playing in many other areas. They're a classic example of how some of the tech companies are moving into financial services. They're a financial services company moving into many other business areas as such. So I'm going to stop there because there's many other examples I can give, but really that's really what I wanted to cover today, was just give you a bit of insight into who Nvidia is, and what customers are using to take advantage, or what clients are really now fundamentally doubling down on Nvidia's platform to build out their AI center of excellence and competency. Feel free to ask questions now, or absolutely, I will stay on and join later, and you can ask questions at the end.
Thank you, Charles. Thank you for the wonderful presentation. And just to update our audience, NVIDIA is a key partner in our HPC drive, and the use cases shown here and more can be brought to Oman, which is why we are having this webinar with you today. Do we have any questions from the audience? As I mentioned earlier, you're more than welcome to ask your questions live on screen, or even to be enabled later on as the question and answer session. So as I mentioned before, NVIDIA, together with NVIDIA, we are bringing in DGX A100 units to Oman. It's already here with us. And this is why we are having this session, to update you on what we can do to you to help the banks in Oman improve their services. Right, so if there's no other questions, we shall take a small break. And please stay online, and we'll be back with our next session titled Applied HPC AI for Business Development. Thank you, Charles, and thank you, team. We'll be back soon.
Thanks, guys.